Today we're talking about Saturn. He's moving from Sagittarius into Capricorn. He is the most problematic and subtle planet out there. He often acts behind the scenes, so it's really important that we keep an eye on him and understand what issues he's bringing up in our charts. I'm going to share a little bit about Saturn's character and nature. We're also going to talk about his history, what's happened when he's been in Capricorn in the past. And then we'll go through each sign so you'll know how to manage this energy as it manifests over the next 3 years.
So, in order to understand Saturn in Capricorn, we need to know a little bit about Saturn's history. Saturn was born the son of a king and spent his childhood in court where he was treated like a prince. Then it was revealed that he was an illegitimate child of the king, and his father, the king, turned on him and threw him out of court. And now he's lived his life as a servant. So that's a pretty traumatic event. And through that event, we can see how his personality evolves and what kind of energy he's giving out as he crosses through our chart. So we're affected by this history of Saturn because these same his emotions that come out of that are what resonate with us when he's in our chart. So the first thing that comes up, of course, is there's a lot of anger. I mean, who wouldn't be angry? Like he's abandoned by his father. But he's living as a servant now in a court, so he can't show his anger at all. So this anger gets internalized and repressed, and so this Saturn can indicate long-held grudges and repressed. The one thing he cannot control is his eyes. So the anger tends to come out of his eyes. And we all know people like that can just look at you and cut you dead. Therefore, the signs that he aspects get a lot of heat from him. So they can suffer more damage actually than the signs that he's sitting in. Another thing about this situation is that Saturns usually don't talk a lot. It's hard to express that emotion. If he could speak up and vent it, then he could get better, but he can't because he's a servant. The other thing that comes up is that as a servant, he's had to develop patience and persistence. And so he owns those things, and so he develops them in us the same way. So wherever he is, you're developing the ability to become more patient and more present, and more persistent even. The presence comes from a laser focus. When you have such a terrible event happen early in your life, it begins to become the center focus of what's going on. Another aspect of Saturn is that because he's a member of the lower and working class, but he's been a king, or the prince, he will advocate for people in lower jobs, just the everyday people and all of that, because he truly believes everyone should be treated equally. So he's very impartial. He doesn't care if you're a king or if you're a servant. He believes everyone needs to be treated the same. So these are the basic attributes of Saturn. And then if we look at Capricorn, a couple other things come up. First, Capricorn is an earth sign, and so that's related to the people who provide all of the things that we need in our life. So manufacturing, laborers, now what would be technology, all this kind of thing. So he'll be working in that area particularly. And secondly, Capricorn is a sign of change. It's in Sanskrit they call it a chara sign. So it is moving forward and forward. And so this is going to be, we can start to see that all these attributes of Saturn are going to be evolving while he's there. So that is what the myths tell us and the stories that have been passed down so that we can understand the energies of the planets. But let's look historically and see what happened when Saturn was in Capricorn. Like I've said, he only comes there every 30 years. So I went back to 1900, and let's look at the last 120 years and see what happened when he was in the sign of Capricorn. So the first time he was there from last century was November 15th, 2002 to February 5th, 2005. So during this time, two things came up to me when I was doing my research. One, in 1902, the Women's Trade Union League was formed for the AFL convention. So this means he's advocating to organize laborers so that they get fair pay and fair wages. And specifically, this was for women. So even then, it was like even further oppressed than the average worker is often the working woman, as we see in the pay gap today. The second thing that happened was the Russian Revolution in 1905. So this is when the peasants literally revolted against the kings. They were starving, they were not being paid well, so there were strikes at work, they organized, and they demanded reform, and it worked. They got a representative body called the Duma that had a multi-party system. So there was a major change then. Then we move forward to 1931. Saturn was in Capricorn from December 25th, 31, up through December 7th, 1934. Two things again popped out at me. One, in 1932, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was elected president, and he initiated the New Deal. And what this did is it was a way to recover from the Depression when, again, the average working people didn't have sufficient job opportunities, they didn't have money, they didn't have shelter, clothing, all the basics. So he used the government to support public works projects, which actually we still benefit from today, and to get the economy going again so everyone could share in the economy. Again, a very Saturn kind of positive thing. The other thing was in March of 1930, Mohandas Gandhi led a non-cooperative movement to gain full independence in India. So again, the people rose up and demanded that their government and the people in power change and give them a fair share. The next time Saturn came through Capricorn was in February of 1961 through January 27th, 1964. And this was the time when there was the rise of feminism in the U.S. And so we had the publication of the book, The Feminine Mystique. So again, we see women are standing up and saying, we need equal rights. There was also, at the same time, the civil rights movement for racial discrimination in this country. Dr. Martin Luther King gave this speech, I Have a Dream. And this resulted in the passage of the landmark piece of legislation which outlawed racial segregation in schools, public places, and employment. So again, equality was advanced. The other interesting thing, especially for Capricorn, is the Wilderness Act was passed at that time. And what this did is legally defined what wilderness land was to protect it from development and preserve it. And at that time, that protected 9 million acres of wilderness. I think this is beginning to raise the conscious cycle that, as Saturn works through multiple years, he is, bringing up a theme. This is perhaps a precursor to what we're facing now with climate change. There was a move there to begin to protect lands so that the Earth would be stable. And as an Earth sign, it makes sense that it would happen there. In December 15th, 1990 through November 10th, 1993, again, we had civil unrest both in the Gulf War, which began, and the Bosnian War, which was an ethnic-based war between the Bosniak Serbs and Croats. Additionally, there were riots in the U.S., and as you know, it's very rare to have riots here. And that came in 1992 after the Rodney King verdict. Again, a civil rights issue, a racial thing is coming up. An oppressed people people are standing up and demanding they be treated fairly. And also at that time, in 1993, the first World Trade Center bombing was done by Al-Qaeda. So an oppressed group was acting out, and they bombed the World Trade Center for the first time. So these are some of the themes we can look for in the coming 3 years. It seems pretty clear to me that there will be advancement in crisis in civil rights and marriage equality, all of the things. The disenfranchised people are going to get their day to move forward, and hopefully will become a more equitable, just society. And additionally, I think climate change will go forward, and hopefully we'll begin to make progress to save. So these are the areas I wanted to highlight for Saturn.
Okay, so let's go sign by sign. If you have your moon or your lagna in Aries, that puts Capricorn in your 10th house. And therefore, the focus of your advocacy during this time to really be effective should focus on the work environment. Look out for balance and reform in the workplace, and also workers' rights, fair wage, fair hours, get rid of the wage gap. The Me Too movement may be something that you also become involved with, fair pay, equal pay, things of this nature. And this, because it's the natural placement of Capricorn, is going to be a dominant issue, really providing fair pay and fair working conditions all around the world. If you're Taurus, then Capricorn is in the 9th house. So the issues there that are going to be highlighted are rights of religious minorities. It's also fair access to higher education. So it's also about fair college admissions and loan reform activities. If Gemini is your sign, then Capricorn is in the 8th house. Therefore, the focus will be on the rights of people suffering with mental illness and addiction. This could also be people who are victims of sexual trafficking or sexual abuse. These issues may be areas where you can devote your energy. For Cancer, Capricorn is in the 7th house. Therefore, the focus will be on women's rights, fair pay and opportunity for women, and also marriage equality. So these things are good areas for you to put your energy into. Leo has Capricorn in the 6th house. And so in the 6th house is the sign of the working public, of your day-to-day job that you do to earn money. So improving working conditions can be the focus of your advocacy. This also would cover animal rights activists and better treatment, more equitable treatment of animals and fairness, and protecting animals, especially endangered species. So if you're Virgo, Capricorn is in the 5th house, and therefore he will be focusing on feeding and protecting children. So this would be a great area for you to get educated about and involved. Libra will have Capricorn in the 4th house, therefore the focus can be on victims of domestic violence and helping adults get higher education. Also, access to healthy food. You might want to research food deserts and see what issues may interest you, or genetically modified products. All of those kind of things will be good areas for you to put your energy into. Scorpio will have Capricorn in the 3rd house. Therefore, focus on supporting teachers and improving primary education for children. Sagittarius will have Capricorn in the 2nd house, and so you can support families in poverty, as well as unemployed and underemployed adults. Capricorn will have Saturn in the 1st house, so this is going to affect the whole chart. You will feel this transit most acutely, and this means that you want to use this energy to explore your own personal mission and really try to define how you can use your unique talents to help those who are less fortunate than you. So if you're Aquarius, you'll have Saturn in the 12th house. Therefore, work with people who have disabilities. It may also be people who are homeless, those who are incarcerated. All of these people will really benefit from your support. Pisces will have Saturn and Capricorn in the 11th house. Therefore, dedicate your energy to raising funds and supporting all of the above causes. Those fundraisers that are really so helpful, make donations and things like that to support the causes that you find important to yourself. Before we go, I also wanted to talk a little bit about the climate change crisis, because as I was putting this presentation together, I thought, it's very interesting that all of the signs have an element. And so you may want to dedicate your energies to the elements related to your sign. So, for example, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius are all fire signs. So you should take that as a personal initiative to address issues about wildfires, volcanic eruptions, things like that, and donate to victims of those causes. Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn are all earth signs. So therefore, you can focus your energy on victims of earthquake relief and things of that nature. Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius are air signs. So victims of tornadoes or hurricanes would be excellent options for you to give your time and energy to. And finally, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces are water signs. So first of all, you can donate to and clean for charities that are dedicated to providing clean water, people who give water filters to many of the underprivileged people in the areas that need clean drinking water. Secondly, victims of flood, drought, tsunamis, hurricanes, all of those kind of things. So dedicate yourself to cleaning up the element that rules your sign, and it may really help you to get through these next 3 years. So if you like this video, I hope that you will give me a like down on the screen, and also hit the subscribe button, and I will see you again soon. Thank you very much.